Hey friends, the end of 2025 is approaching, and although I'm not a huge fan of setting your goals on the annual basis, I still think it's a good time to do some reflections. And I always wanted to create some kind of format for this channel so I can do it on the annual basis before the end of the year, but I struggled to find things to talk about that I really enjoy, so I decided to just share with you my discoveries of the year. Two of my favorite leisure activities are reading and watching movies, so I will share 6 of my favorite books I read this year and 6 of my favorite movies that I watched this year. Let's do it. Let's start with the books. I read 23 books this year, which is approximately the average number how much books I read. I wish to read more, but well, let's start with non-fiction books. I noticed that I'm more scrupulous about non-fiction books recently. I try to really research and understand the author and what the book is about. There are a lot of nonsense non-fiction books out there, but at the same time I think there are still a lot of great books that help you to learn about just life and improvement and kind of find yourself a little bit better and know human nature better. So I still enjoy reading them from time to time. This year I have just 2 non-fiction books, and the first is Sapiens: A Brief History of Humanity by Yuval Noah Harari. I hope I pronounce his name right. Here we go. You see, I have a little bit of visual graphics today. And I think this book is absolutely incredible. As the title suggests, it walks you through the history of humanity from ancient times until modern times. But I think the book shines in kind of questioning the reality, questioning the beliefs that we believe in as a humanity, as a human race. It goes kind of deep into these questions, why we used to certain customs, and also a lot about storytelling, how humanity used storytelling to kind of guide and make us one of the most successful species on Earth, basically. It's a really fascinating read. I definitely recommend you if you're interested in kind of understanding human nature, and it leaves you with a lot of questioning of certain beliefs and certain norms, and it's great. It's always a good sign of the book if it leaves you with new understandings and questioning some things. At least for me, it's the best feeling that I can get from the book. The second book I have for you today is Useful Not True by Derek Sivers. I really enjoy Derek Sivers' philosophy of life in general. I listen to a lot of podcasts, I read his blog, but I actually never read his books, and finally I pick up the first one, which is Useful Not True, and this book actually has a lot of common with the previous one, because it's basically a short book with life lessons and philosophies of his life. It kind of goes into questioning the beliefs or truths, again, what we consider truth in this world. It kind of reflects whether we should consider everything true, and maybe it doesn't even matter if it's true or not, and we should think about how actually useful things are. So it's a great book, especially if your views are aligned with Derek's, which mine are. I think my kind of life philosophies and approach to life is very similar, but maybe less extreme than Derek has. I think it's summed up into this one sentence that life is blank. That's what I consider my life as well. I love experimentation and love filling my life with new things, new learnings, new experiments, new experiences. This is basically what the book is about as well. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, definitely recommend it. Also, I'm gonna read all the Derek books. They're all short and they all, I think, could be pretty useful. Now let's switch to 3 fiction books that I have for you, and the first one is Trevor Noah, Born a Crime. I've recently noticed that I really enjoy reading books that go me through some history or learning about new culture of certain countries or group of people. Also, at the same time, this book should entertain, and this is to me the best symbiosis to kind of have great story and also learn some new things. This book is exactly that. It is basically a memoir of Trevor's childhood. If you don't know the Trevor, he is a famous comedian. He's pretty famous in the United States nowadays, but he grew up in South Africa as a mixed child. It goes a lot about race and how apartheid changed South Africa. A lot of things that I didn't actually know about this country at all. But also at the same time, it talks about adolescence, about just regular childhood and teenage stuff. It's just super funny as well, because he's a comedian, of course. He uses humor a lot, but also it brings a lot of important questions to life. So it's kind of a perfect symbiosis of having entertainment plus learnings plus talks about important things. If you want to pick up this book, I certainly recommend you to pick up the Audible version, audiobook, which was narrated by Trevor himself. He does an absolutely incredible job. I think he's the only one who could narrate this book because he kind of imitating the accents, and South Africa has a lot of various languages and accents, and he does an absolutely amazing job to kind of transfer it all to you and make you immerse even more into this book. Absolutely fascinating audiobook, definitely recommend it. The next one, also quite similar in terms of format. It's a book called A Thousand Splendid Suns by Khaled Hosseini. Sorry for my pronunciations again. And this is a book about Afghanistan. And Afghanistan has a very, very complicated history, and it goes through multiple decades, showing you the changes in the country, but also internal relationship, especially related to women and the war. There are a lot of very important things. I should mention that this book is quite sad, but it also a really great story. Storytelling wise, it's just amazing, but be prepared that the story is quite sad and it leaves you with a lot of feelings. But the story is absolutely great. It's really hard to put down this book and you just kind of disappear into the story completely. Amazing book, definitely recommend it. I know Kite Runner is very famous, also from the same author, but I haven't read it yet. It's on my reading list for the next year. The next is The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. It's of course a very old book, but it became more popular when Hulu or HBO made a TV series about it. The TV series is, by the way, so for me. I think they directed it for too long, but the book is incredible. It goes into one of my favorite settings of dystopian future, but the book actually about important topic, namely women in the society. It's quite famously feminist book, feminist read. I never read a lot of feminist works, but this book just struck me to the core. I think it's a very important read, and especially if you're a man, I definitely recommend you reading it. I think we progressed a lot as a society in terms of equal rights for women and men, but not enough still, and I think it's important that we are gonna continue progressing and improving ourselves. In that sense, this book is great, definitely recommend it, and the story is also fascinating as well. And finally, the sixth book is my bonus book. It's a bonus because it's a third book in the series, and it's Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson. He's my favorite fantasy author of all times. Since this book is part of the series, it doesn't make sense for you to start from it, but the book was absolutely great. If you're really want to read fantasy series, especially with a great world building and going into details of the world, I definitely recommend the Stormlight Archive, which is the series of this book. It's the third book, and the series in total has 5 books, also a couple of spin-offs, which I also read. The whole series is amazing. Absolutely recommend if you like to try a fantasy book. Now let's get to the movies. This year, so far, I watched 99 movies, which is quite a lot, and surprising. When I checked my Letterboxd, I was like, what? I watched a movie every 3 days almost. But I think for me it's a little bit skewed towards the winter months. I noticed that in winter months I watched a lot of movies, almost like one movie every day sometimes, especially when the Oscar season is, but in the summer I watch much less. Anyway, I have also 6 movies for you, 5 main one, and the 6th is kind of a bonus. The first one is Anora. It's not a complicated movie by any sense. It's relatively simple but beautiful story, reimagining the Cinderella. It's kind of Cinderella in the modern America, in modern society. It also touches upon the world that I'm familiar with a little bit, at least I was in the past. It's Russian rich kids world, and how we call it, like golden youth. I think Sean Baker, who is the director of this movie, did a pretty good job of retelling the familiar story that touches on modern society that we familiar with in a certain ways, in one way or another. I think it's a great movie and it's a light watch. The next movie called Sorry Baby, and it's a completely independent movie and a directorial debut from Eva Victor, who also playing the main role in this movie. So she's the director and the main actress. This movie is about the woman who got stuck in life because the trauma she's experienced in the past. But this movie is also about friendship, which two of these main topics creates a perfect synergy, perfect fit to each other. This is actually one of the movies that I can't quite put my finger on what exactly touched me, but it's just such a beautifully constructed story, and the movie has almost perfect rhythm to me, how it tells the story, how it shows the visual progression of the characters, and I think also the traumatic experience was shown in almost the perfect way and the most realistic way. That's most important. I don't know, just for me it was just perfect mix of all the elements that fit into perfect visual storytelling that our movies are. Next, my favorite movie of the year is The Outrun. The Outrun is mostly set on the Scottish Islands. It's a British movie, but mostly the events happen there, and it tells the story of addiction, more specifically an addiction of a young woman, and the main role played by Saoirse Ronan, who is one of my favorite actresses at the moment. This movie touched a few chords in me. I kind of felt connected with the addiction part of the story. There's a part of the plot that talks about reconnecting with your roots, kind of simplifying the life, which is quite important for me and one of the things that I'm trying to do as well. So I kind of felt quite linked to the movie, that brought something inside of me, but it's also just a beautiful movie. It's just beautifully shown, beautifully filmed. The story is interesting. It's not fast, it's not slow, and of course Saoirse Ronan, she's just a great actress. Always a pleasure to watch a movie with her, so definitely recommend this movie as well. And the next one, I think it's much less known, as I watched it during the movie festival in Cluj in Romania, Transylvania Movie Festival. It's called You Are the Universe, and it's a Ukrainian sci-fi independent movie, which already sounds quite surprising, right? And I really like that this movie doesn't try to be anything else but just a simple visual story. It doesn't try to be art house, or it doesn't try to be a high budget movie. It's just a very simple story about love and loneliness. The movie also played just by two actors, and when you have just the very few actors in the movie, you go deeper into characters usually, which is the case for the movie as well. And it was just amazing to see a sci-fi movie made by post-Soviet country, which is, I don't know, quite frankly, I don't know any good of them. I can't recall any good movies in the genre. So it was just great, and I loved the story, I loved the simplicity, I loved the characters. It's just sentimental, funny, and just beautiful movie, so definitely recommend you to check it out. The next one is The Roses, and I really like the type of story that Roses tell, because it talks about familiar topics of family and relationship, but also it creates a very obscure and unusual angles how to tell this story, and I really enjoy this type of experimentation, and this movie was absolutely perfect for me in that sense. So if you like originality in previously familiar genres, definitely recommend watching this movie. Also just a performance by two of the best British actors in the movie, so it was enjoyable. And finally, my bonus selection, and this is a Century of the Self, which is not actually a movie but a short TV series. I think each episode episode is 1 hour long, so it's 4 hours watch. And this is a documentary kind of research by British writer Adam Curtis. And this is quite an old movie, but the idea is, I would say, never been more important than today, and it dives into how corporations and media and politicians use various psychology tricks to manipulate the masses. And he argues that all the society manipulation that we use today, like every day, was actually based on studies of psychoanalysis of Sigmund Freud. It was really fascinating. I've never heard this opinion, I've never read it anywhere else, and I just enjoy it so much. I think I'm gonna rewatch it maybe next year as well, because I think it's very important to know that how you can be actually manipulated by the people and companies that you don't want to be manipulated by. This documentary can open your eyes on many things you actually experience in daily life, and also it's free on YouTube, so it's kind of no-brainer. Definitely recommend you watching it. That's it for the video. I hope you enjoyed those recommendations and discoveries. If you want to follow me regarding those things, I will put my Goodreads and Letterboxd account in the below. Just follow me and I will follow you back. Let me know, what do you think about this format? Should next year I make this video again? Should I add maybe something else? For example, I can add my travel recommendations or my video games recommendations. If you'd like, just let me know what do you think in the comments below. With that, I wish you a happy holidays. I hope you had a great Christmas and you will have an amazing New Year's Eve. I hope 2026 is going to be a great year for you and you will manage to do more quality things and spend more quality time with your loved ones. And I see you in 2026.